My name is Kevin Schindler, and I'm the historian at Lowell Observatory. Sure, my background is actually in geology and paleontology, but it overlaps a lot with astronomy. And I've been here at Lowell for almost 25 years, and this is where I learned all my astronomy since I came here. You know, modern astronomy uses computers, and you look at a screen quite often. You're not looking through an eyepiece. And our astronomers are making remarkable discoveries with that. But in terms of our public programs, and for my part, most of my time working with telescopes has been looking through an eyepiece. And it really is spectacular. I've done it for a long time. And you know, even if you're not interested in science, you know, you can't help but be marveled when you look through a telescope and look up at a galaxy, or see Jupiter close up, or see the rings of Saturn, or the place on the moon where the Apollo astronauts landed. It really feels like you're connected to the cosmos, and whether you're into it or not, you're still going to gasp at it.
Yeah.
When you think about what you're doing and what you're seeing. So for me, that's I guess the biggest thing that I've seen through a telescope is that feeling of being human and observing another place in our universe that I'll never get to, but I can still learn something about it by looking through this telescope. There are a lot of different types of telescopes, but they really fall into a couple of major categories. One is a telescope that essentially uses mirrors. And so if you imagine a tube like this telescope, because this is one, it's called a refractor. And so if you imagine a tube here, and this is the end closest to the sky, and this is the end that either has an eyepiece like this one, or you have a camera or a computer to collect the information. With this type of telescope, light comes in here, it passes through one or two pieces of glass. And that glass refracts or bends the light till it comes to a focus down here. So that's called a refractor. A reflecting telescope uses mirrors. And so light comes in here, but there's not a big glass there. The primary mirror is down here. So the light goes through that tube, hits that mirror, then that mirror bounces back to a secondary mirror that's suspended up here, and that bounces back this way. And there's a lot of different configurations of that, but that's one. There's different ways of bouncing the light back and forth, and you can have it focus at different places. Sometimes it focuses up here, sometimes down here, depending on all the mirrors and stuff that you're using. But essentially you have a refracting with the light passing through the lenses, and the reflecting with light bouncing off mirrors. And then there's combinations and other factors. But the goal is the same, to look at things in space and see as much detail as you can. Lowell is named after Percival Lowell, who was from a wealthy family from Boston. He had a brother who was president of Harvard. One of his sisters was Amy Lowell, the Pulitzer Prize-winning poet. Another sister married a relative of Theodore Roosevelt. If you were a Lowell, you did important stuff. If you name a Lowell in the past, you know, name a Lowell and it's going to be part of that family. So you were expected to do something as a Lowell, to do something important. So Percival Lowell spent years overseas as one of the first Westerners to immerse himself in Eastern culture in Korea and Japan, wrote several books based on that. And then he came back to the United States in the early 1890s and decided to found an observatory to prove the existence of life on Mars. Not only life, but intelligent life. And we know today that he was wrong about that, but he really popularized this idea of, you know, this awareness that there could be life out there. That, you know, the question that we all ask as humans, are we alone?
Yeah.
He really made us learn and think about that more. So he established the observatory initially to study Mars, but then through the years, we've done other studies of the solar system. And though Lowell has historically been known as a solar system observatory, you know, studying planets and asteroids and comets and moons in our solar system, and Pluto was discovered here in 1930, not with this telescope, but another one up here on the site. So even though there's been a lot of work on solar system studies, perhaps the most important discovery ever made here was outside of our solar system. Starting in 1912, one of our astronomers, V.M. Slipher, was the first to detect the expanding nature of the universe. Well, there's some things you can see with your naked eye, like the moon, or you can look at stars. There's one galaxy you can see if you know where to look, the Andromeda Galaxy. So those are things you can see with your naked eye, but through a telescope, it's much more magnified. The moon, we can kind of make out where a couple craters are, the big ones, and we can see kind of the darker and lighter areas. But through a telescope, you can see craters down, with this telescope, down to half a mile across. You can see a lot of detail. Mountains and valleys and craters and cracks in the rock and such that you can't see without a telescope. And then there are objects that we just can't see with our eye. Pluto, you can't see with your eye. If we didn't have telescopes, we wouldn't know about Pluto. There are distant galaxies. Most of the galaxies we can't see without the aid of a telescope. And there are more distant things out there. Asteroids. Unless an asteroid is coming really close to us, we're not going to be able to see them. They're a lot smaller than planets, and they're far enough away that they just look really tiny. So astronomy is in our everyday life, and we don't think about it quite often. But when you look through a telescope, it's just you and that light. And you're seeing that come your way. It's a real personal experience, and it really makes you feel connected to the cosmos.